One day away from the weekend, one day away from Halloween. You're listening to 710 KURV. Your 956 drive home with Zach Cantu and the living legend, Davis Rankin. You're home for Houston Texans football this Sunday. The Texans host the Denver Broncos. We got pregame at 11:30. You're home for Houston Texans football at 710 KURV. Joining us every Thursday around this time is Dave Barnes, certified financial planner with Ameriprise Financial. It's time for Money 101. And I know the topic this week is do certified financial planners self-diagnose? Do they self-medicate their own portfolios? But before we get to that, some real interesting news out this week, huh, Dave?
Absolutely. And just for my own clarification, did you say Oracle, Zach? Good heavens. Yeah, in the news this week. Yesterday, we're getting reports from the meeting between President Trump and President Xi of China. Meetings seem to go pretty well by Mr. Trump's accounts. We know sometimes he'll embellish just a little bit once in a while. But we saw progress. I say progress. Mr. Trump indicated that what China was doing to crack down on the fentanyl precursors would allow him to relieve some of the tariffs put in place for that reason. Also, we saw that the pause on recent export controls for rare earths was going to be suspended for a year. So we'll see what goes on from there. And I understood from Secretary Bessent that the Chinese are going to buy 12 million tons of soybeans this year and 25 million additional per year each of the next 3 years. So good news for the soybean farmers. And there was some other discussion, but those seem to be the big three. We know that the central bank reduced the federal funds rate, that overnight interest rate, 2 days ago, 1 day ago perhaps. It reduced it again by 25 basis points or 0.25%. So that's good news. The one thing that did cause markets to pause a little bit is that Chairman Powell said there was no definitive path from here. They were going to be very sensitive to what was going on before they would be lowering again. So the December rate cut seemed to be a bit more of a question mark there. And then, as you just mentioned, Zach, we're 30 days or 31 days into this government shutdown. So goodness gracious, we'll see if we can't get that resolved before long.
Yeah,
but I thought you came up with
soap opera, Dave. It really is.
I thought your questions this week, Zach, that you posed were just great. You know, do I self-diagnose and prescribe prescribe, and then how does a CFP navigate their own portfolio? And that's such good questions. First of all, I would ask, why would a CFP have someone else handle their financial planning? And I think there are some reasons that are reasonable if they chose to. We've heard the story about, the shoe cobbler. His shoes are always in worse repair than everybody else's because he pays attention to all of his customers. Well, that might be a possibility. The emotional detachment that an advisor can have towards someone's business can be a real plus. So that could be something if the CFP was getting too emotionally tied to their financial fortunes. Just continuity for the family, for heirs. That's a good thing. Have somebody that's involved. Spousal involvement. If you've got a third-party CFP coming in and scheduling a meeting for both spouses, everybody's going to hear what's going on and be involved in the conversation. Otherwise, it could be kind of dominated, say, by the CFP.
Too many cooks very quickly, right?
Yeah. Well, and different people have different areas of specialty. That can be an issue. And having a second set of eyes on things is never an all bad idea. Now, in my case, I do handle my family's financial planning, or at least my wife and I's financial planning. So I have to be a little bit careful because the cobbler shoes and the emotional aspect and the spousal involvement, those things can sometimes intrude. but I handle it. We have to remember too that I have another CFP on my staff and in the family. So I've got someone else there to kind of question and look over my shoulder whether I want it or not. But first thing I would do, think about the areas of financial planning. You've got to deal with cash flow and debt management and, cash reserves or emergency funds. Those are pretty foundational things and just a matter really of paying attention. There's no magic there. Then in the protection arenas, so all of the insurance areas might be health insurance or homeowners or car, disability, long-term care, life. These are things that are a little more complicated, and we've got a great deal of training and licensing across the board here. However, when it comes to things like health insurance and property and casualty insurance, homeowners is property and casualty, but I really look to inquire of people that spend their entire day in those particular arenas, because I don't do much of that, even though I'm licensed. It's not something I do very often. But then we've got all the accumulation goals. So it involves goal setting and analytics and tax considerations and the strategy evaluation and liquidity planning and all of that. That's right in a CFP's wheelhouse. So I can handle all of that, I think, and do it well. Income tax planning, we have a good bit of training and knowledge in that area. However, certainly we're going to partner with a CPA because they are authoritative as far as the IRS is concerned. So it's good to have them on board. Retirement planning, the savings and investments and taxes, liquidity and withdrawal rates and portfolio and right in my wheelhouse, no problem. And then the estate planning side, that's something we've had a great deal of training on too. And I'm a pretty good estate planner, but I don't do the documents. That would be unlicensed practice of law. So we certainly need to consult a professional attorney for that. But this financial planning process where we're taking inventory and setting goals and allocating and analyzing, allocating resources and analyzing results and the strategies and monitoring, adapting and repeating, all of that is what we do. So I really think the CFP is pretty uniquely qualified. I'm pretty confident in my abilities, certainly in Drake's abilities to what we bring to the table. So I kind of prefer to handle it myself if I can deal with the cobbler shoes issue, which is a problem sometimes, and the emotional side of things. I'll be probably retiring in the next 3 to 5 years. I understand how people say, gosh, when I retire, that's all I'll ever have. So that occasionally, even for me, that steps in there. And I think it's a little bit silly, but it just goes to show you we're all subject to that.
Dave Barnes is a certified financial planner with Ameriprise Financial. It's Money 101 every Thursday around this time. I did want to ask something before we continued. So you're somebody that's at how do I say this? Kind of like a choke point of information, right? Where you're the guy that's constantly getting bombarded with what I imagine is just a lot of financial news or financial rumors or really interesting stock tips, right? But you're not really privy to any like insider information, like some people might think. Like if the big crash was coming, you're not getting a secret email saying everybody needs to pull their money out now, and you guys can, you know what I mean? Like there's no escape door for you guys either. You have the same information that everybody else has. Am I correct?
You are exactly correct. And that really leads to you. The second point you made is, do you run your portfolio the same way you run your clients' portfolios? And we got to remember, as a CFP, I have a fiduciary duty to those people that we serve, meaning I have to keep their best interest in the forefront. And so for any given situation, if all things are equal, why would I choose a solution for myself and not use that same solution for someone we're trying to serve? Obviously, that would be kind of a breach of integrity and a breach of that fiduciary responsibility, or something's unusual going on there. So when I do that, it does a couple of things. It aligns my business with the client's business to the degree situations are similar, and there can be some reasons why situations are different. But it makes sure I'm putting forward the best ideas in my own money. I'm doing the same thing for my clients. I'm using the same pieces for the investments in their money and my money. If it's good enough for me, it's good enough for the folks that have almost $50 million with me. So I figured that that's a pretty good philosophy. Also, as you say, you don't get nobody rings a bell when the market's going to drop 25%. So I both participate with them in the gain of what we're doing, applying similar strategies, and in the pain during that, 1 year out of 4 where things don't go quite the way we want. So it helps keep me aware and allows me to relate to some of the pain they're feeling, and helps me to keep all of us steady at the helm there. And, again, you got to practice what you preach if you're going to have any integrity in your life or certainly in your profession. But solutions can vary. Goals and timeframes vary. That really has a big impact on the tools and strategies you'd use. Income sources and amounts. If Davis were on today with all of his hundreds of thousands a year of fixed retirement income, he can run the rest of his portfolio different than a poor schmuck like us who needs some supplemental retirement income. So that can be a different. Liquidity needs risk tolerance. I've got a different risk tolerance than many of the people that we work with, and certainly have the technical and the historical understanding. So I'm comfortable with things other people might not be. And then the relationship history. Folks I've worked with for 30 or 35 years, they don't have too much trouble with anything going on. They've been through it before. We have a relationship of trust. A newer relationship, that might be a bit more difficult early on.
So you really are, just one of us.
I really am just
like a
one of
guy,
us.
like a normal regular guy. Yep.
But that was such a good question, and we routinely tell people, we do eat our own cooking around here because my family's stuff looks just like what you're looking at. So
that's right. So for and there's no, this kind of like dovetails with the whole what is a certified financial planner, and you did mention that earlier in the interview. But you're somebody, and in my opinion, it's one of those things where there's so many deadlines and thresholds and regulations and rules and laws and this and that. I don't think any normal 8 to 5 guy can manage that all their own. And you're somebody that is constantly having all of those elements at the front of the mind, which is why it's advantageous to have a certified financial planner like you. So for people that want to plan out their financial futures with Dave Barnes, how do they get in contact with you?
Well, please give us a call at the McAllen office, 956-772-4200. 772-4200. And Zach, it's very important that I have a whole lot of smart people boiling all those things down and putting them on the screen every morning for me. So that helps a ton.
Thanks a lot, Dave. We'll see you again next week. That's Dave Barnes, certified financial planner with Ameriprise Financial Money 101 every Thursday at 4:20 on News Talk 710 KURV.
Thanks, Eddie.